Good morning. Happy Thursday. Coffee with Lily. Today, this little chat is for you if you have trouble releasing guilt, if you have trouble setting boundaries and sticking with them. Hey, Emiliano. If you have trouble learning how to slow down. So I did want to kind of preface that. I had some crazy shit happen to me yesterday, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I don't really know where this is going to go. But let's just face it. I think in this world, we are praised for pushing through pain. We are given awards. We are patted on the back. We are really just rewarded and praised for just the shit that we have to put up with. And I think what a lot of people don't think about is how this pattern of really kind of pushing through and pushing through and pushing through, which is appropriate in my opinion sometimes, but from an emotional perspective, if our shit tolerance, so to speak, is really high from an emotional perspective, and if this is something that we learned to do when we were younger, for example, then the patterns when we become older, for example, having healthy relationships, having a good relationship with ourselves, really honing in on self-love, finding it hard to be vulnerable, to release guilt, again, to have these boundaries that we really want. If these patterns persist in our adulthood, it may be something to look at. And for me, I was on that level. If you follow me for a little bit, you know that not even 5 years ago, I pushed through a lot of pain and I won a national championship of all things. For a lot of other things other than just like pushing through, there was a lot of love that I wanted, a lot of adoration, a lot of validation that was unhealthy. But that's just an extreme example. Just a thought. Is if you feel like that you always have to push through the pain. Sometimes when we ignore pain emotionally, we are really kind of ignoring ourselves, right? Just think about that for a minute. There is a younger part of ourselves that really wants to be seen and wants to be heard and wants to be loved and cared for and understood. But if we could keep pushing through emotionally, like for me, it was putting up with a shitty relationship for 8 freaking years. Because a younger part of me really just honed this part of me in childhood that was used to bullshit. That really didn't know anything better. That was used to chaotic environments or people leaving me, for example. So that became really safe and really familiar. But I didn't want that. Who wants that? Who wants that from your soul and your heart level? Who wants to feel abandoned, to feel like that they can't be vulnerable with people and connect with people? To be joyous and playful with people, because you do have to let your guard down to do that. So if you kind of categorize yourself as having a high pain tolerance just in life, I would urge you to see how that's playing out for you in your emotions, in your connections with people, and even yourself. Because in reality, we all deserve so much love. So much abundance, so much connection. And that is really our birthright, but we forget. So I really, think about what part of you, if you're feeling like that you're kind of putting yourself aside, if you're at the level where you do want more in your life, you want more connection, more whatever it is, more money, more abundance. I really don't believe anymore that you just have to put up with shit and it's just going to happen. That just hasn't been true for me after I started healing all of these kind of internal wounds that were happening for me. And that's what I do now with my clients, which is amazing. But just a thought. You know, like people like Michael Jordan are amazing. But how are they doing in their relationships? You know, I follow Tom Brady a lot, and I think that he has a good balance of, you know, if you follow kind of what he does to like self-regulate and co-regulate with his family, I think that he has a good balance of, you know, drawing a line in the sand, you know, putting out or putting the right things in place to be regulated. I'm going to read what you said, Emiliano. I think it's a catch-22 because without going through obstacles, struggles, and pain, you don't get what it's on the other side of that. I agree. And I think we had this conversation maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I agree. But I do think that there is a balance. I know this now. I wouldn't have known this then. But I do think that there is a balance of taking this step, whatever the next step is this really aligned with me? Is this right for me? Does this feel good to me? Just a thought. And I think that if you do categorize yourself as having a high pain tolerance, and specifically you struggle with emotions and connection and maybe attracting the right relationships to you, then my guess is healing this and really finding alignment will be super easy to go to the other side, to finding what you want. And it takes a little bit of vulnerability, but what I've learned is that, okay, I'll share this with you. Last night I was on the craziest call, and Carrie, if you're still here, you were there. I was so activated and scared to be vulnerable on this call. Just, you know, without kind of putting it all, you know, telling the whole story. I was so activated. My nervous system was freaking out. But I knew that kind of like curling up, if I'm a turtle, pulling my turtle back into my shell was not going to be helpful for me. And in a previous life, I would have pushed through that pain on my own. And it was emotional pain. We're not talking about physical pain. And I think, you know, again, it's kind of a hard line if we're talking about obstacles and struggles and pain. And I get that. But I think emotionally, it doesn't have to be that way. The kindest thing that we can do to ourselves is put ourselves in situations to heal if that is our normal set point. If struggles and obstacles and pain are our normal set points, where we either always have to push really hard with stress and anxiety, or my go-to obviously is to retract and to pull in my head into that shell, then that's not normal in my opinion. That's not balanced. But like this little thing that I did last night really exposed me to being vulnerable and how it was safe. And it was so, so, so healing for me because it felt like what I needed to do. And it was a little bit, you know, painful, but it was good pain. It was growing. I grew last night. So I think, it's all in perspective, right? It's all I guess my call to you is whatever it is that you're going through, you're struggling with right now, are you aligned and are you balanced in your approach? And if something inside of you, and this takes a little bit of self-awareness, but if something inside of you is saying no, that is the point where I don't think that pushing through and activating that high pain tolerance is in your highest good. From the heart, from the soul, in big love. One announcement, Align into Authenticity coaching. One more spot left, and it's closing when it's full. So message me, and we can set up a call to talk about this if this is the support that you want to need. If you need, or if you want and need, if you need help pinpointing where it is, where you want to go, and having just major support along the way. I got you. Bye, y'all.